Wait a second, where's her? Here we go. Hear me? No, it's not. Hello? Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Can hear her. When you echo, so it's has to be on. So we need it all the way on, yeah. And that's all. Hello, can you hear me? No. Can you hear us?
Yes.
But you can't hear over here?
I can hear, but there's like a echo.
I think you need to put this back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are the microphones on maybe? That could be an echo.
Okay, it's good now. I don't know.
You can hear now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think we're good. You could start.
Okay, great. Everyone.
Hello. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the land use zoning and housing meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order. And our first order of business.
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna do the a roll call.
John, here. Ariadna. Sarah. Alistair. Yeah. Herman.
Wait, I forgot to turn the recording back on.
This is recording.
Oh, it is recording?
This is just the top. It's recording.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, make Connor, promote Connor to panelist.
Trevor.
Reception.
Michelle. Molly.
Okay.
Campbell. Here. Jaylene.
Here.
Sandra is not here. Steve is not here. Megan is not here. And Anisha is not here, right? Okay, so.
So we don't need to do a vote on the minutes. I think we just have to accept them, right?
Yes.
And do we need to have a quorum in order to accept them? Does anybody know when Susan comes back? All right, well, for now, let's begin with that. does did everybody see the minutes? Everybody saw the minutes? Does anybody have any objections or corrections to them? Okay, otherwise, if not, then we accept the minutes. And then we can move to the first item of the agenda, which is a presentation from the Department of City Planning about the City of Yes, the Economic Opportunities Revised Use Group. And who do we have with us today from DCP?
Hi everyone, my name is Aska Mohyeddin.
Say it again.
Aska Mohyeddin.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So, do you have a presentation that you want us to put on screen?
Yes, I'm not able to share my screen, but if
We're going to share, we're gonna give you, hosting privileges so you can share your screen.
sounds good.
Okay? Do you know which one is the host? Oh, change panelist, wait. She's, how do you,
We need to promote them.
yeah, how do you promote them? Oh, you change the role to, no, so I guess maybe you're, because they're a panelist.
So that's fine, here, let's,
Everybody forgive us for our technical difficulties.
wait, let me. So she's a panelist, and we're going to. Maybe I'll do it on here.
Would it be in the screen sharing?
Okay, I think that I have to do it on here, so I'm doing it now.
Oh, I think I can do it.
Okay, just made you a co-host, so you should be able to share screen.
Great, so,
Can you share screen now?
Aska?
Oscar, can you try now?
Can everyone see that?
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me back to present on City of Yes again, this time on the adopted City of Yes for Economic Opportunity. Susan asked specifically about the new use group organizations and how they are and what that means in terms of, and I know everyone was really used to how we were talking about use group 1 and 2 and 3, and the numbers have all shifted. So I just wanted to kind of go through what the new categorizations look like and make sure everyone is comfortable with them. Through the presentation, just because I can't see the room, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to interrupt me, or if there's something going on, just get my attention, just you can just interrupt me.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Would you prefer to give the presentation and hold questions to the end? Or do you want to pause with every few slides and ask folks if they have questions?
I think if there are questions that come up, I'm happy to just pause. Today's presentation is not so much like about, like, I have a lot of information. It's more like I want to make sure you all understand what I'm saying. So if you have questions for clarification, we can just get through them quick on the spot.
Perfect, so let's go through it, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So first things first. This is what I'm talking about. This is the before of our use groups. Everyone, really there was these 3 major categories of residential and community facility, commercial uses, and manufacturing uses. And that's sort of how we've always talked about, use groups and sort of use types. And the new categories are these, which really is more about just expanding those 4 typologies into multiple typologies. So why was this done? One of the first reasons is really this reorganization of this category because, since 1960s, this is when this classification first came about with the zoning resolution. That's the only way that really uses were thought of, like, oh yeah, they live here, so this is residential, this is a commercial space, and this is where you're making things, so it's manufacturing. But over time, uses have become more nuanced, and things have, it's not necessarily just a thing of like where you live versus where you're making things, and things have become more, fluid in that sense. So while we still had this categorization over time, when these new uses came online, they were sort of ad hoc, just put into different typologies, even if they didn't really make sense or fit there properly. But they're a little too narrow to classify these uses. So, for example, something like an electric utility substation was under use group 6, retail and services, while electric power plants were under use group 18, heavy industrial. Those are related uses, but they were just categorized in a very different sort of way. What the new organization does is that it reorganizes these uses based more on the coherent typologies and how their like similarity of their use and their business type. So now that same example of that utility substation and power plant, instead of trying to figure out where that use is in multiple different use groups, you can easily see, okay, it's most likely going to be under public service facilities and infrastructure because it's an infrastructure typology. Does that make sense in terms of the concept for everyone? Okay. So, yeah. All right, so now I'm going to move through some the first 5 use groups just to show how that works out in terms of the new organization. So the new use group 1 is agriculture and open uses. So anything related to agriculture, things like greenhouses, nurseries, etc., will be in this use group. And anything related to open uses like cemeteries, golf courses, parks, outdoor skating rinks, those will all be in this one use group. Previously, these uses were in things like were divided up in use group 4, 13, and 17. So just to give you an idea of that disorganization. But now anything that you're trying to figure out, like if this agriculture or this open use is allowed, you know exactly where to go to look for that. Use group 2 is residences. So before this was use group 1 and 2. For some reason, detached single family homes had their own use group as use group 1. We got rid of that distinction. All residence typologies are now just under use group 2, residences. Now, use group 3 is going to be community facilities. Previously, community facilities were divided up into use groups 3 and 4, but now all types of community facilities will be under use group 3, and they were further categorized under use group 3 as 3A, which is community facility with sleeping accommodations, or 3B, which is community facilities without sleeping accommodations.
So, can we ask a question?
Yeah.
So that's A is a dormitory. Go under A?
Yes, so educational institutions such as with sleeping accommodation would be 3A as a dorm.
Hospitals, nursing homes, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, so now the use group 4 is, this is one of the newer categorization that was not in the previous zoning resolution. This is public service facilities and infrastructure. So anything related to, public service facilities includes things like courthouses or fire stations and police stations. And then infrastructure has a lot of, so it's a vast category. So it includes things like communication or utility infrastructure, waste infrastructure, sewage plants, transportation infrastructure like docks and airports and things like that. So all of that is just under infrastructure. And also renewable energy and green infrastructure is also under use group 4. Then use group 5, not much has changed from the previous one. It's still transit accommodations, which previously had the use group 5 was the transit hotels. So it's pretty much the same. And similarly, use groups 7, 8, and 9. They're all just, again, those categorization of like offices and labs or recreational and places and of assembly and entertainment all together, and storage typology. So whether that's a warehouse or a micro distribution center, all of them are considered under storage. So just like by the use of that space is how the categorization works. So this is sort of one way of organization of the use groups. The second thing that's changed since the use group updates has been this introduction of the NAICS concept. So what is this trying to do? This is the second goal of this change, is to simplify and modernize the way businesses are classified in zoning resolution. So again, previously in the zoning resolution really just had what it considered, what businesses were deemed compatible or similar at the time in 1960s. But what that ended up with was a lot of outdated use terms or inconsistent categorizations because businesses have evolved since then and things aren't called what they used to be called, or they've, just changed how they operate. So what we have done here is adopting the classification that is in the North American Industry Classification System to also classify how we talk about, retail and services under use group 6 and production uses under use group 10. So the NCAICS is really where we're using these codes, referencing these codes in the zoning resolution itself to kind of define what that use looks like. And I'm going to go through now how to use those codes and where they show up. Okay, so this is a use chart from the zoning resolution. This is looking at a part of use group 6, retail. And what you'll notice here highlighted in yellow is that after the use, such as automobile dealers, there is a code in parentheses. So automobile dealers has a code 4411, and then it tells you what that use and like where it's allowed in all the different C districts. So question of what does that code mean and what is it? It's really just this way of grouping businesses, which is an industry standard, is a federal standard, and it's and it kind of is able to classify thousands of industries in a way that makes sense. It's also updated every 5 years, so it doesn't get outdated, which is another benefit of having of using this code system. And the way it's organized is that it has the broadest definition of a business, which has a 2-digit code. So we'll just go through this one example here in retail trade. So retail trade is 4445. So within retail trade, then you have multiple uses. Looking at 2 uses here, 441 is motor vehicle and parts and dealers. 444 is building material and suppliers dealers, and then further breaks that down into automobile dealer, vehicle dealers, and automotive parts and retailers, which is then further broken down into. So it really gets really specific about the type of use, and we're able to reference a very specific thing or a broader thing, trying to see, like, depending on which types of uses we're trying to allow in a specific zoning district. So here's an example looking at understanding, how to use the code. So before, within commercial districts, automotive dealers were named automobile, motorcycle, trailer, or boat showrooms or sales with no repair services and with no preparation of vehicles or boats for delivery. So all of this, that definition was that use was listed under use group 9A. Now, when you look at the zoning resolution, you'll see that automobile dealers references 4411 code, and that is and then that's what you can look to see, like what types of business activities are classified under that code. So looking at the NAICS, we see that automobile dealers allows for 2 specific types of industries, both new car dealers and used car dealers. And then both of these specific business types are understood as being permitted under the zoning resolution. So we don't have to specify, which, whether we're talking about used car or new car, we can just say automobile dealers, and that tells you what's permitted. And then another thing is that really the manual goes further into detail of the descriptions of that use. So and that description is really helpful in, for businesses who are trying to figure out if their specific thing is permitted in a certain district or not. It is also helpful in understanding what's not permitted. So for example, for automobile dealers, we know that new car and used car dealers are permitted, but when you look under cross references, that tells you what is not permitted. So in this example, businesses that provide automotive repair services without also retailing, or they're considered another use group, so it wouldn't be permitted. All right, so sorry, speaking too much. All right, so I want to make sure I haven't lost people so far. I know I've been talking about codes a lot.
Any questions? Anybody online? Give us a second to see if anybody, no? Doesn't look like there's any questions.
Are we gonna go over at all some of the use group 6, which, that we would have in our community, like, different retail, that kind of thing?
I mean, this presentation is really to explain how to use and reference and find out like what's allowed in what zoning district. So in CB3, there's many different zoning districts, and each zoning district has its own permitted sort of uses. So it would be harder to kind of go through what's permitted overall in CB3, for example. But we can look at like the way that it's set up is more about like by use. So it's like, is a restaurant permitted? Then you can see like where it's permitted versus trying to see like what are all the uses that are permitted in CB3. Does that make sense?
What we use a lot. How long is it gonna take to update the zoning text?
The online zoning text is already updated with all of this. So all of the new the fully adopted zoning resolution from the zoning for economic opportunity should already be on our website.
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to now do a sort of more of a live demo for more, instead of using the manual, which is a bit more detailed and it's really more helpful for businesses who are trying to figure out where they can be permitted or not.
Before we move on, I've got a couple questions. Is the presentation tonight going to be shared with us to share with the community or anyone who might want to see it? And then also at some point, if you could speak to where these codes can be referenced, where they can be accessed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely share the presentation tonight with Susan, and then she can share with whoever needs to see it. You'll put it on your website, whatever is helpful. And next slide is going to be talking about actually how to look up these codes and referencing them. So.
Thank you.
All right, so here's an example. I just want to get through more of a live demo of how to use these codes. Let's say you want to open up a tattoo parlor. You find a space in a C2 district, and you're trying to figure out like, is a tattoo parlor permitted in the C2 district? But you can't find something as specific as a tattoo parlor in the zoning resolution in terms of the uses. But however, before this new ZEO, there was a lot of ambiguity around some things like this because tattoo parlor was not a defined use, and instead what was used was beauty parlor, which because it was the closest use, so then tattoo parlors were considered similar to beauty parlors, and then they were considered a use group 6 use. However, we can now get more specific with the use of this code system. So you can look at under personal and laundry services, which is under the retail trade establishments. We have personal care services, which are then further divided up into health fitness establishments and then all other personal care services. So under other personal care services, you see that any personal care service under code 8121 is permitted in a C2 district. So I have a link here to go to the website for the NAICS codes. And you put in the code you are trying to find. And then it tells you everything that's considered a personal care service. So here we have hair and nail, barbershops, beauty salons, nail salons, and then there are.
It's not showing us when you're doing the test.
Okay, let me share the other screen.
Okay.
And go back. All right, so from here I went to this.
So just to be clear, if I want, just for the public's information, if I want to open up a spot on 4th Street and Avenue B, and I want to know what's permitted there, I would go to this link to look up, am I moving in the right direction here?
Okay, so I'll zoom out a bit more because this presentation is really just very specific to use groups. But in
Right.
terms of how to find out what's permitted where, you first have to see what the zoning district of that location is. So I'll pivot a bit and go into Zola, which is our other tool. So with Zola, what you can do is it tells you the zoning district of any and all zoning law in the city. So I'm just going to pick up a random one. Right, so we have this slot. Let's see, this is where your the example you just gave me of like you're trying to figure out if you can open up a store or something here. And this is your address for, and from here you can see what the zoning district is. So you're in a C62A zoning district. And that tells you that anything that's permitted in a C62A zoning district would be permitted in this specific lot.
So how do I find out what's permitted in a C628 zoning district if I am a regular person?
Yeah, so then we have the zoning resolution. We have this on our website, and you would go to the commercial district regulations, use regulations, use allowances, and through this you can see like what is permitted where by just following this chart here. So C6, these are the permitted uses in C6. Then we have something like retail and services, same thing. These are the permitted uses in C6, and you just you follow that to figure out what is permitted where.
Thank you.
Sure. So in this example that from the presentation, we had the code was, let me just look at it really quick. All right, so yeah, it's an example if you're trying to open up a tattoo parlor, and the code for that is 8121. So then I can put that code here. And now it's telling me all the uses that fall under the personal care services use under. So this includes barbershops, beauty salons, nail salons, etc. And then there is this other category of other personal care services. And when I click that, it tells me all the types of uses that are considered other personal care services. And I see that tattoo parlors is one of them. So I'm able to open up the business that I'm trying to open up in the district.
Thank you. Connor, from Councilmember Marte's office is asking to be recognized. Connor?
Oh, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to, I know, I think this is a helpful presentation and about the NAICS lookup, because I know that some of the uses defined in the zoning are still a little vague. So that's helpful. And one thing I wanted to mention because I know someone had asked about like restaurants, because I know restaurants are obviously like restaurants and bars are like the bigger, one of the more problem uses, I guess. Currently, they're allowed in every commercial district, and that's still true. They're recategorizing and cleaning up the way that it's organized, but that I would just say that that's still true, that bars and restaurants are still allowed in every commercial district the way they were before this. And I think that these charts in the zoning resolution, I put a link in the chat to that specific chapter if it's easier to get it at it in the future. But I think the charts are helpful, like the chart on the slide currently, that actually just says which commercial districts personal care services is allowed in, because we didn't have that before. And so it's definitely a lot cleaner. And I guess like one thing that comes to mind is maybe for ASCA DCP is like, I know that there's been a lot of building out of the tools online at DCP, and maybe one thing could be if there's a way to integrate into Zola a way to more easily see permitted uses on a site when you click it, the way that you can see the zoning district. If maybe there's a sort of mini tool or window that can pop up to better visualize exactly what's allowed on that site versus having to go into the zoning resolution and find it yourself. That's just like an idea, but yeah.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, thank you, Connor, and thank you, ASCA. I mean, we so appreciate the work that DCP is doing to, define these things more clearly, but, and to make it easier, but everything that you can do to make it even more user-friendly, I think will go a long way. So I don't know how many more slides you have, ASCA, so I will just turn the presentation back over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's great feedback, and we're always looking for feedback. So if you have, user friendliness and adding those things, I think like that's something definitely I'll bring back to the team. But if there's other things and ideas you have, we're always open to hearing those. I just have one more slide, really, because again, we know this is a big change. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware that there's this resource we're calling translation resources that kind of have what was the previously defined uses, that if more people are familiar with how they were previously called and what they know what they were, and they had that sort of kind of easy understanding of them. We have this chart on our website that takes those old use groups and then tells you what that new use looks like, or what it's now categorized as. So if you were familiar with it before as like use group 6A, for example, and you're like, I don't know if a use group 6A bakery is allowed, where to look in terms of what that use is called now. So we have this in both reverse. We have it from old use groups going to new use groups, and then we also have the new use groups going into old use groups. And that was really just my last slide. But any other questions, I'm happy to take those.
Any questions from any of our committee members? Anything else? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna say that I used to depend on, to kind of the zone, the summarized books with, you know, the small books with all the charts in it. So I can't wait till there's new ones.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah. So I think we don't have any questions from anyone online or any comments. So thank you for that presentation, Asta. And again, thanks for taking our feedback back to your team. You know, we're always looking to make everything easier for all of us. You're going to share the presentation with Susan and she'll make it available online for others who might be interested in looking at it. And I guess we'll reach out if we have more questions or when we should come back. I don't know if there's any other business, is there?
No, I'll just say, you know, certainly be looking for the translation charts and that sort of thing. So if I have a hard time finding it, I'll email you.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that is it for our agenda, folks, and there's nothing to vote on except to do our closing roll call. I don't know if Susan, we want to take 2 seconds. Is there anything that we should be thinking about as a committee? Like, you know, we're in September, October, November, December. This is routine stuff that we should just get our head ready for.
Well, next
You
month,
can think of anything, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
next month we'll be voting on budget priorities. So I think we'll try and have most of the meeting on, for some of the people on, you know, what they are, what budget priorities are to us, you know, how they're related to agencies, not city council discretionary, that kind of
So
thing.
you're saying, you think we'll have a meeting about that separately?
We will be voting, so this will be on the agenda
Okay.
as it is every October. And we will be coming, district managers and committee chairs have been going to a number of budget consultations with the agencies. So we'll be bringing back information on what programs may not exist anymore, what needs funding, what doesn't need funding, what's well-funded. The city tries to convince us everything's well-funded, but we try to pull out from them what really isn't funded. So we will be voting on what priorities we want to, for our community, meaning we want to bring money in. So what's important is not.
So just to understand that process, so that everybody understands. The district managers have taken the information they've gotten from their boards, their committee, from the city, right, to set up a set of priorities that they've all negotiated, all the Manhattan community boards, for example.
Well, we haven't negotiated, but all the boards put
That you wanna
together
include.
is what do our boards want to know about? We put together a bunch of questions. So then we meet with the agencies, they answer our questions, and then we take from that what still needs to be, what needs better
Right.
funding. We bring that to the committees, and you will vote on what you think is important for our community that needs funding.
Okay.
And then we put them together from all the committees. We come up with one list. We vote separately on capital priorities and expense priorities. This committee includes NYCHA priorities, housing, land trust, that sort of thing.
Right.
Department of Buildings.
HPD.
Department of Buildings. So there's not actually a real lot of priorities. So I don't think it's gonna take hours. Usually I think we do it in about a half hour.
Right.
So I'll have that. We're also gonna have a presentation from the Lower East Side bid.
In October, right?
Pardon?
In October, right?
In October, regarding, they're gonna be coming to us for support, regarding use of Essex Street Market, particularly the bottom level. I don't have details on that, but they will supply all the details to us.
It's important for folks to know they're already on the upstairs.
The ULURP to create all that, that area was in this committee for years. Damaris was there the whole time, I guess you and Herman were there, so they will remember that. So when we're looking at what they're asking us to support, it's gonna be in line with the guidance that we originally created for the area. So that would be the October. For November and December, you guys might, agencies might come to us with presentations, but you should also think if there's something that you want.
Right, which is why I wanted you to talk a little bit with us, because normally in the past, the committee had a very full agenda, full. And for the last year or so, it's been on the lighter edge. And so this is as good a time as any for us as a committee to take on new things, learn about new things, ask questions about things, get ahead of the game if we can. So, maybe we can put our thinking caps on and try to, if you have ideas or recommendations for things you'd like to know, or you think that this committee can take on, please let us know so that, Susan, John, I, and whoever can get working on it, if it's something that's reasonable and that we can make happen. But that way, we haven't had this kind of time before, I think ever in my time.
There was a time we had 2 meetings a month on there.
Yes, do you remember? So this is like, imagine well, it was never like SLA, but imagine SLA all of a sudden having 10 items on the agenda. It'd be like, how could that be? So that's kind of where we are right now, but this sweet spot might not last forever.
So I want to suggest you could look at programs from city agencies for them displaying, state agencies. We were going to have a presentation on affordable housing from a state organization, and then the person moved to California. But those are things we could have state elected officials that are proposing or backing programs come and explain those programs. Certainly all the NYCHA changes, just ideas of things.
Right. So,
I think Connor was raising his hand.
oh yeah,
I'm not
sure, Connor, please.
Okay, I just wanted to quickly flag, since this is the land use committee, that for city, it just felt appropriate. City of Yes for housing opportunity, as you voted on recently, is making its way through ULURP, and just flagging that the City Planning Commission is slated to vote on it on the 25th at 11. So you can watch that on YouTube live stream. And then they're expected to make some changes of their own, and then it'll come to the council. So that's just kind of where we're at in that process. And we're still fighting for the things that we've been advocating around since the beginning of the process. And so we'll just sort of see how it goes. But it's going to start ramping up once that vote happens.
So that's going to be another interesting thing. What are the changes since we voted? What changes will be in the final program?
We won't know that until that time comes, but just so that everybody understands that the work that was done by this committee around both the economic opportunities piece and the housing piece, they're both being, the final vote for the entire City of Yes is in September. Is that correct, Connor?
No,
And
so
last one,
sorry,
right?
I would share my video. I don't think I can, but that's fine. I was just gonna say no. So City of Yes for economic opportunity, like what the use group changes happened, what Ozka was just talking about, that's already passed fully. So each one of these City of Yes sections, I don't know if you remember, but a while ago there was the carbon neutrality one as well, which feels like it was like a decade ago at this point. But each of these are completely separate applications, but they're all under the same campaign called City of Yes, but they've all passed as completely individual applications. So economic opportunity, carbon neutrality fully passed, and then economic opportunity has made its way fully through the process as well. And so now we're just voting on housing opportunity, which is the one that has to do with the housing related proposals that you've been briefed on most recently.
I know, I'm clear. I just wasn't sure if there was still yet another vote for the economic opportunity piece, but I got it now. Thank you.
And that's why the use group stuff that was mentioned has already been adopted, and it's already on, it's like all the online materials already reflect all of those changes.
So anything else that we want to raise? Any other questions? All right, so Sarah, just so that you know, we were just asking folks to take some time to, since I would say that this committee has been really busy over the years, and it seems like we have a little bit of breathing room, even though we've had some big, projects come before us, but still. And so trying to just be prepared and think ahead, we're asking folks to take some time to consider programs or initiatives or anything that's in the housing, land use, zoning realm that you might want to know about from an agency, an elected official, or anything that we might be able to invite or put on the agenda in the upcoming months so that we can take this time to sort of develop ourselves better and know really about, what's happening with the New York City landscape. But that's it. We're pretty much gonna wrap up.
Yeah, sorry for
Did you have your hand up? Oh, you did. Sorry, Campbell.
I was gonna,
Sorry.
I was gonna ask if we have ideas, should we send those to you like over email?
Sure. Yeah, I would say send them to me and CC Susan too.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then, sometimes, I'm always trying to create structure because I have this vision that ideas are gonna come flooding in. But, maybe we'll get a couple, but if we do get a lot, then we'll figure out like what we do at that point. And then as soon as we know if it's possible, if it's a feasible, ask, then we'll notify everyone. Or you'll see it on the agenda, but I'll try to notify anybody whose idea it is, like, hey, I think this is great, let's do it, and we're gonna be able to put it on the agenda for this time. Okay. I just want us to, take these opportunities to learn more, to be better committee members with each other so that, we can take this charge as seriously as we can. And, I'm happy that it's not crazy. So if there's anything else, if there's not, then we're gonna do the roll call.
Sure, Damaris. John, present. Ariadna, absent. Sarah,
Present.
Alistair,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Trevor, absent. Michelle, Molly,
Here.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jaylene,
Here.
and Sandra, Steve, Megan, and Anisha are absent, I believe. And
Yeah.
et voila.
All right, and thank you, Connor, for attending. CP is off already, so, but we thank him too. See you all
Yeah,
next.
thanks for having me. Have a good night.
Adjourned. Okay, we've been having some.
Oh, how was your trip? How long were you there?
You know,
A month. Do you do that every year?
Oh,
they said. No, yeah, no, of course it's family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,